Welcome to the Napa Valley Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Jay Lang, the spiritual director of this center. We are an inclusive community for spiritual growth and compassionate action. Come on in for one of our recent services.
Be yourself, yeah. Inner guidance gonna make you sing and be connected with everything. Love and joy you cannot miss. Be yourself and follow your bliss. Be connected, be alive. Listen to your heart and soul. Be yourself. Be yourself. Be yourself. Yeah, yeah. Be yourself. Be yourself.
So today we are talking about the new month, a new theme, and proud to be me. We've gone around the wheel in different ways. We're continuing to move around, but this one I just so resonate with, because not only is it Pride Month, it's one of our deep, long passions here, our visions, is to give everyone permission to be their authentic self, to act out of their spiritual magnificence, to waken that up, and not only here in the community through our classes, our workshops, our services, but also through inspiring others in the way we live, in outside and everything else we do, to awaken spiritual magnificence. Just think about that term, awakening spiritual magnificence. Now, it does take a time to understand what that magnificence is sometimes, and yet we're doing the best we can at any given moment. And today we're going to be talking about how our body is a temple. It's a sacred, this body that we have within us. In 1 Corinthians, the verse goes, do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit? Which is a beautiful verse, but it's surrounded by shame and disrespect for our bodies, about the thing that our body is a sin. So it's the Bible is so contradicting at times, it's hard to know what to lean into. It justifies, quite frankly, systems of oppression, of slavery and misogyny, of discrimination. And so we know that's not God. We know that's the ways of the human. So I lean into more of the mystical teachings, and sometimes the Bible comes out with little wisdom teachings. I go, oh, I know, I resonate with that. I know the truth of that. It's not because of what I believe. It's because I know it's a resonation. It's aligning with what Spirit really is. Love. And love is love is love. I do like the mystical teachings of the Kabbalah about, just bear with me on this one. So the mystical teachings, they talk about the tree of life is the symbol for the Kabbalah. And what it says, that your divine, spiritual, emotional, physical beings correspond to the four elements on this planet: fire, air, water, and earth. So what the teachings of the Kabbalah, which is the mystical part of Judaism, if you don't know that, says we originate with a divine body which corresponds to the element fire. And that makes sense to me because I experience Spirit as the divine spark within me. And we descend into the world to spirit and take on a spiritual body corresponding to the element air. Now this was unique for me because but it makes sense. It's how I experience is this all-encompassing God, Spirit, divine intelligence, but then I experience Spirit here within me, so we descend into this spiritual body, and it's the element air, which we think of in the Bible. It talks about how God breathed air into us. It moved over the water. Often the Holy Spirit is considered the wind by Native Americans. They talk about the Great Spirit as being wind. So this too corresponds with what I've experienced. And then it says we descend into our emotional world of the psyche and take on our psychological body corresponding to the element of water. And finally, we descend into our physical body that corresponds with the element earth. To me, that makes sense, and it also helps me be grounded in this body because it's so important to be in our body. When things get uncomfortable in our lives, when we feel pain, whether emotional or physical pain, we tend to go out of our bodies, maybe into our psychological body or our mental body. But what's true about our bodies is that there are memories stored in our body. Our pain, our hurts, our wounds are stored in here, not necessarily where we're physically wounded, but it's a memory. Our heart has as much memory as our brain does, and so do our other organs. It's fascinating. The people that have had a heart transplant, so they have a heart of another person in their body, they start having unusual cravings, memories, but not visual memories. They're feelings, experiences of memories. And at first, people didn't understand, but they went back. They heard it was possible, so they went back to the person whose heart that they had. And they saw that that person had these kind of cravings, this kind of experiences. So they pulled into their body those experiences. So we know that we have these containers. Now, there's also this idea as we come into our physical being. If we align with the divine, with the spiritual, with our emotional body and our physical body, we can know what our spiritual magnificence are, who we really are. But the conflict comes when the outer world, the human world, tries to define who we are. They put us in a world of polarity. We're either a man or a woman, or we're black, or we're white, or what kind of hair we have, or we're too short, or too tall, or too big, or too skinny. Our hair's not right, the tone of our skin, the complexion of our skin. Our words are said in a certain way. Or we don't process things, or we don't have the same physical or mental abilities. And that's judged by the outer world, but the truth is, when we can, and that's not always to do, especially easy growing up, to recognize what's true for you. That you are this divine vessel in all ways, and you recognize the uniqueness you are, the love that you are, the spiritual components that you are in all ways. By the way, I took this picture the other day. I was just trying to do a flag of the picture. Do you see the rainbow in it too? I guess the earth was corresponding with it being Pride Month, or just a little spiritual orb there. But I wanted to introduce you to Dr. Temple Grandin. If you don't know her, she's a fascinating, fascinating woman. So she was born autistic. She struggled with life, with relationships. She couldn't read verbal cues. She didn't relate well with people, but she was brilliant, and she knew that about herself. So she found what she did good, that she was a scholar, and she could process information, and so she began working with other silent friends, i.e. animals. And so she began to become great friends with cows and horses and farm stock, livestock. And she found that they were much more relatable than people ever understood. And she did groundbreaking work on how to care for animals on ranches and stockyards and the way we treat animals. She's a professor at CSU. I don't know if she used to be a professor at Colorado State University teaching veterinarians. And so she also influenced veterinarians and how they treat. And animals, and the bottom line is animals are seen as much more intelligent, much more social than they were seen before. I always thought, a cow? Come on, but no, really, they're very social animals, and they need to be treated with dignity and respect in humane ways. And she had to find that spiritual magnificence. She was to be able to do this. And then I've also been reading about opera singers. So this is Lucia Lucas, Elliot Franks, and Brianna Sinclair. They were all well-established opera singers who had a career and was part of their identity, but there was another part of their identity that wasn't being expressed. And that's what their gender expression was, which had nothing to do with their orientation. So each of these people risked their career, and by the way, their voice too, to trans into the man or woman or non-conforming gender that was their true identity. And opera was a perfect place because if you know anything about the history, gender roles are often confused on opera. That men are playing women, women are playing men, so it's the perfect time. And all of them say they'll play any part on stage, but it's who they are in real life is when they can be authentic. So I know Lucia was a tenor and is now a soprano, and Elliot was a soprano, is now a tenor, and Brianna is also a soprano. So they changed their voice, which is, hey, if you know anything about voice, you just don't do that, especially as an opera singer. And they did that because that was who they really were. They had voice coaches tell them, oh, you can't do that, don't risk that. But they did it because in truth, that's who they were. And I know this being Pride Month that there is so much about this that we need to be true to ourselves, and we need to honor those around us who are seeking to express themselves and not put them in polar opposites or assume things when we speak about gender expressions or gender itself or orientations. It's not a polarity, one or the other, it's a spectrum. And people may change that spectrum during their life as they express. And who are we to judge that? Or it may be something within yourself that's seeking to be expressed. And we hope that this is a safe place for you to be able to express all of yourself, all the different components. And even the opera singers I was talking about, they're always real clear that each of them talked about, well, I am more than this trans woman or this trans man. I'm a singer, and I'm a friend and a parent, and all these different aspects of me. So we have these different aspects. What's interesting about the trans community is it seems like it's come up overnight, but it hasn't. The original in 1969, the thing that started the Pride movement was at a bar called the Stonewall Inn that was known as a gay bar, was raided by the police. And the people they arrested were not people who were acting gay or doing anything over-sexual. It was they were dressing not like their gender. That was what the law was. So if it was a woman who dressed like a man, they would be arrested. If it was a man dressed like a woman, they would be arrested. And that had been going on for decades, but this night they fought back. That's what was different. There was one trans woman who they would put in a police car and she'd get back out. She did that like 4 times. She kept getting back out of the car. I don't know why they didn't lock her in there or something, but and people were watching her do this. And they go, why are we just sitting back and allowing this to happen to us? We can do non-violent resistance. Before any protests they did, they were always asked to dress moderately, and stand in a picket line with their signs and orderly lines. That night things changed. For 6 days there were riots and protests that were out loud. And a year from then, in June, that was in June of 1969, in June of 1970, they had the first Pride Parade in New York, and they decided they were going to be loud and proud, that they were going to be colorful. And I'm not saying all gays and lesbians are colorful, but I am saying the ones that do want to express that fully were now allowed to be that person. And they did. They showed their colors, and that's why we celebrate with a rainbow flag now. All the colors, all the different expressions of the world, which includes gender expressions now, which includes people of color on the new progressive flag that we fly. And so that they could be loud and proud. And for me, this inspires me, and I hope it inspires you too, to not hold back who you really are. Define yourself, not as defined by other people, but as your own spiritual magnificence you find within you, and be that person. You don't have to be loud about it. Just be clear on who you really are and be true to that. Be true to that which is opening up in you. So in this way, the importance of doing this when we talk about our body being a temple is make sure you're paying attention to your body. I mean, when was the last time you really listened to your body? And did you pay attention to it? Did you follow what it was saying? We can have this divine wisdom within us as intuition. Like I said, our body communicates with us. It never lies. It's always giving us a message that brings us to optimal health, full expression of ourselves. I think of it as being like a warning light on a car. You know, when you have a car, you can do preventive maintenance. You can do the oil changes and things prescribed to certain us. So that's like our bodies. You know, we can do preventive kind of things, exercise, eat nutritiously. But there are times, if we're not paying attention to it, we're not doing that preventive maintenance, the warning light comes on. And if we don't heed that warning light, then our whole car can break down. But generally, the warning light tells us we need to take care of something. Now, there are times that our car breaks down, even when we have done all the maintenance. That just happens sometimes. Our body sometimes has things that happens, and we just go, okay, well, this is my body. I know who I really am, and I can take the steps, I can listen to my body and do steps towards greater health, optimal health. The other, and part of that is listening to our dreams and listening to our intuition. The other night I had a dream that I had a crick in my neck, and I woke up, I had a crick in my neck. Is that prophetic or what? I guess that's sort of like saying I had a dream that I needed to go to the bathroom, and I woke up and needed to go to the bathroom, but I'm just teasing. Because in truth, our dreams can be prophetic, and they can lead us towards something that we need to address. My concern about listening to our body, taking care of our bodies, is it tends to be an all or nothing kind of thing. So if we set a resolution to walk 5 times a week, or to or never eat sugar, or never do this, or when we do absolutes with our body, when we stop doing it one time, we go, oh, well, I can't do that. That we give up completely. So because we're not walking 5 times a week, we don't walk at all. So each day is a new day. And each day we schedule it. Now, also, we don't wait till, right before work. Oh, I could have gone for a walk. It's oh, I should have allowed more time to eat something nutritious before I left. We schedule it. We have strong intentions. So intentional living, right? That's what we do. Now, sometimes it doesn't work. But we go back to committing not to a certain resolution, but we're committing to our own self. Our physical being and also our spiritual being in that way. That we can heed the warnings and listen to this openness that we have, this clarity we have with our divine, spiritual, emotional, physical body that's right here. We also want to make sure we're not lying to ourselves or listening to the lies that we are telling ourselves, believing them. We know the truth of our soul, of our spiritual being. And sometimes the judgments of those around us, the images we see on television or in the media, our brain makes up lies that we're not that, so there must be something wrong with us. From the Science of Mind teachings, we talk about people being whole, complete, and perfect. That perfect word's really hard to do with, I know. But let's start with whole. Whole, we are whole beings. We are one, and all parts of us are in this wholeness. That it's all good, all our feelings, all our thoughts, that we're whole and complete. There's nothing missing from us at all. We're complete. There's nothing that we have to do to be better. Now, it's okay to be content with who we are and discontent, to move towards something, because we know what our healthy self is. And when we have a diagnosis or we don't feel comfortable in our body for this reason or that, we can make steps towards correcting that or realigning with that. And here comes the word perfection. Perfection, because the divine within us is perfect. So we have perfect health within us, perfect beingness in us. And it is this perfection that is always true. That our body may be out of alignment in some sort, and we just come back to this alignment, this truth of who we are, that we are whole, complete, and perfect. Dr. Bressel van der Kolk, who wrote a book called The Body Keeps the Score. He's a professor of psychiatry and founded something called the Trauma Center in Brookline, Massachusetts. He said the greatest sources of our suffering are the lies we tell ourselves. The greatest sources. And Sonia Renee Taylor, who wrote the book called The Body is Not an Apology, said, humans are a varied and divergent bunch with all manners of beliefs, morals, and bodies. Systems of oppression, she says, thrive off our inability to make peace with differences and injure the relationship we have with our own body. So I'd say most of us have some sort of discord with our body, and she makes the radical statement that when we feel less than, the systems of oppression in this world take advantage of us or use that oppression for us to feel smaller. And if we are in our power, then those systems of oppression cannot happen to us because we're clear on who we are, no matter what anybody else says. I know that as I was looking at this oak tree this morning and the beautiful, Lori, what are these called? They're just beautiful right now. Chautauqua, pink dawn. And each of those trees, the oak tree doesn't go up there, this beautiful oak tree that is right over our heads right now. It doesn't look at those trees and go, God, I wish I had some pink flowers like that. I don't know, and those are so beautiful. If only I had pink flowers, I'd be so happy. No, it stands in this truth of who it is, this mighty oak, this beautiful oak. Matter of fact, the city came out, we have to trim a small limb off of it because it's pushing down on the electric cords. Minor, just a small limb. It needs to be handled. But it also doesn't go, oh, I'm a loser because I'm pushing against this electricity and I'm not worthy. It doesn't do that. It stands in its truth, fully in its body, fully who it is. And we can do that too. We can be the mighty oak. Or we can be the flowering chautauqua, If that's who we are, let's be that. Let's be who we are, not somebody else. I've been following NBA, obviously because of the playoffs, and I needed to look at some other story other than game one. I will say, I was reminded by the Buddhist that attachment leads to suffering. I thought a 12-point lead after the third period, I could bring my hopes up, but no. That's okay. Game 2 tonight. We're good. But as I said, I've been looking at other stories of NBA players, getting my mind off my suffering. And I don't know if you know the player Dwyane Wade. He's a retired NBA player. His wife is Gabrielle Union, American actress, award-winning. They have a wonderful family. And you see the third girl from the right, her name is, got to find it here, Zaya. They knew her until she was 12 as Zeta, their son. He came home one day and said, I think going forward, I'm ready to live my truth, and I want to be referenced as she and her. I would love for you guys to call me Zaya. And Gabrielle Union, being of the acting world, she she go, oh, okay, sure. And Dwyane Wade was from inner city Chicago, and he had a lot of adjustment to make. But he said he kept his mind open, his eyes open, his heart open, his thoughts open. And he was exposed to things through his wife, traveling the world, meeting new people. He's actually been here to Napa Valley many times, touring. And so he adjusted, and he became proud parents of a child in the LGBTQ community, fully embracing. This is his picture of his last game that he played for Miami. And it's a proud family. It's one family. You can see there's a lot of male energy in that family. And they're very all accepting of Zaya and how she has taught everybody about being their true self. And then also Reggie Bullock, who plays for the Dallas Mavericks, he grew up pretty focused on sports, which you'd have to be at an NBA level. But he had a brother that he knew struggled but didn't know how to support him. Well, his brother came out as trans and became a trans woman, but then at the age of 24 was killed, tragically. So that really woke him up that NBA was important, but there are more important things. So he became a strong advocate for all GLBTQ issues in the communities that he played in. And he just recently won the Abdul-Jabbar Social Justice Award for his work. So these are people that, you normally wouldn't. They stay pretty focused on their sports, but they come out because they recognize the truth that these people are. And that's what I'm encouraging our community to do, to be open, to keep, as Dwyane Wade said, to keep our eyes open, our hearts open, our souls open to our own experience, to align with our own truth, and to be open to the truth of others as they express it, to listen, to ask questions. What is your experience of that like? To let go of the judgments of others and of ourselves. To not believe those lies, to know your truth, align with what is the highest and best for your physical body, your spiritual body, all aspects of your being. Thank you for watching today. If you would like more information, scan the QR code or go to nvcsl.org or come in person. We'd love to see you. Sundays, 10:30, live music, great messages in this great community we have here.